Awesome. Looks like we are live. I see a few people jumping in the bottom here, so we'll give it a few minutes. Our apologies for being about a minute late here on our end. So we'll give it a couple more, let people filter in here, and then kick things off. So appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening to join us. I know I'm excited. Paul's excited here to teach you guys a little bit more about Toprut and how it can benefit you this season. But in the meantime, while we're giving it just a minute for people to trickle in, Paul, what's your season looking like? Any big applications coming up? Anything you should draw?
Yeah, I've been really excited about my Colorado Moose tag. I'm hoping to finally cash in on a lot of points and weighted points for that. I've been looking and scouting for moose for years, so that's my big one. I'm going for. I'm also looking to expand out of Colorado and do some multi-state applications this year as well. Probably Wyoming and New Mexico, and probably Nebraska for whitetail. So I'm just trying to branch out and hunt some new places I haven't hunted before.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how my season's going to look. We're adding to the family this spring, so my time this fall will be cut a little bit more limited. Lots of stuff to do here in Montana, so I'll probably do one. I was thinking about Colorado, but who knows? I might try and stick closer to home now. It's crazy. Application season's here. It comes and goes really quick.
Yeah, no kidding. I feel like I was just in the field chasing elk around just last weekend, but it was already mid-November. So I can't believe how fast time flies. And I'm excited to start thinking about 2023 and where we're going to head, what we're going to do. So
Definitely.
yeah, it's amazing. It sneaks up on you, especially with, like non-resident elk in Wyoming. That application deadline's next week. So it's like we got to get the ball rolling and figure out our plans.
Yeah, for sure. That one is coming up really quick. And shamefully, I still don't know if I'm doing it or not. The plan was to do it and some stuff came up, so we'll see. But just quick reminder for the folks on the call, you guys, your video is not showing. You are muted, so don't worry about that. Also, just another reminder, we'll be answering some questions at the end. First and foremost, we're going to do our best to keep the Q&A portion to, specifically to Toprut, how to use the tool, the ins and outs and definitions and everything of that nature. We're not going to really dive in super deep to what units you should be applying for, how many points you should burn on this tag, so on and so forth. We work with a great group, Huntin' Fool, and all elite members get a free membership, digital membership to Huntin' Fool as well. So we'll push a lot of the questions over to those guys, being the real experts in the unit breakdowns and season trends and things like that. But as far as Toprut and draws, we'll be getting all that stuff dialed in and covered tonight. So for the Q&A portion, make sure you're dropping your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat. I see a lot of people in the chat right now. Hello from Colorado. Definitely use that chat function to let us know where you're chiming in from and to communicate back and forth between you guys. But as far as like the Q&A, what you'd like answered at the end, make sure that you're dropping those in the Q&A spot there. So I think that pretty much covers it. Paul, if you want to get to the next one, we can introduce ourselves real quick and dive in.
Yeah, for sure. So go ahead, Dylan, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Dylan Dowson. I have been with onX for a little over 7 years, which is crazy. Time flies. But right now I work a lot with Western big game marketing. So I work a lot with our TV personalities, the YouTube personalities, our different ambassadors. I work really closely with Paul on anything to do with Toprut and marketing. And yeah, pretty much if it's Western big game, kind of comes across my desk, if you will. So my favorite game to pursue, I know I got a mule deer picture up there. That was from a Colorado mule deer hunt this year, but I got to probably go with elk. Elk with a bow in your hand in September is pretty tough to beat. So Paul,
Yeah.
I'll kick it over to you.
And Dylan, where are you at?
Yeah, Missoula, Montana. So onX was founded in Missoula. We've got offices in Missoula, Bozeman, and then we have a lot of folks who live all over the country that work for onX. So I am in Missoula.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, I'm Paul Ronto. I've been at onX just shy of a year now, so I'm kind of a new guy in the room, but I've been hunting for 20 plus years out here in the West. I'm actually a Midwesterner, moved out here for college and got sucked in by the mountains and chasing big animals. For onX, I am one of the marketing managers for Toprut and anything that kind of is involved in outside of the map. So, our mapping app is one of our main products, but we also have products like Toprut and elite benefits that any elite member gets access to. And so I work with those programs. As far as favorite game to pursue, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon with Dylan. I love pursuing elk. I love hearing them out in the woods. I love them early season when they're bugling. I love them late season when they're herded up. And there's a million eyes looking at you, and it's really challenging to get close to those big numbers. And so, yeah, elk is probably my favorite to pursue. Secondarily, I'm really into turkeys. So I've got a couple turkey fans on the wall behind me, and that's kind of like spring elk season, chasing these little birds around that make a lot of noise, and they come into you just like elk. So those are my two big game that I really enjoy pursuing.
Sweet. And so this next slide here, we're going to throw in a survey, a link in the chat. If you guys would take just a second, I believe it's like less than a minute long survey. Even while we're on this call here, fill this out. We're trying to provide all of the value that we can, especially for application season, for our customers. And being as you guys are here on this call, you're definitely the right audience that we'd like to talk to answer this. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just please take a second, fill that out. It's going to help us a ton moving forward with providing you guys with exactly what you're looking for as it pertains to application season. So yeah, I'll let you kick over to the next one, Paul. But as you're doing that, one thing I just want to say, state clearly up front, all onX Hunt Elite members, you get free access to Toprut. So just being an elite member, Toprut is included within that. Premium memberships, we'll talk about that later. A really cool exclusive opportunity to upgrade to elite to get full access to Toprut. But I just want to make sure that is clear. So Toprut is nothing separate. Elite members, just log in with your onX Elite membership and you're good to go.
Perfect. Yeah, and again, that survey is just one question, so it shouldn't take you too long. If you can get that done, we really appreciate it. Moving on. So what's on the docket for tonight? So we're going to help you guys understand why you need to understand draw odds. That's the first thing. As application season arrives and you start putting together an application strategy, it's really important that you understand what you need to know and why draw odds are important. We're going to talk about Toprut, and we're going to do a Toprut 101 and how to get started with the tool. We're going to do a walkthrough of a couple real life scenarios. So we're actually going to walk you through how you would find a hunt tag or hunt code for 2 different states in under 4 or 5 minutes per state. So we can show you it's fairly easy to go from just opening the tool to actually finding an answer that you want to apply for. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our other onX application resources. And then at the end, like Dylan said, we're going to have time for a Q&A session.
Yep. And we are doing a giveaway toward the end for some exclusive onX apparel that you can't get anywhere else, can't purchase. So stick around for that. That'll come later on.
Yeah, perfect. Definitely going to want to stick around for that. All right. So just to kick this off, as we get into application season, there's a couple key deadlines. Obviously, each state has multiple deadlines, but what we want to do is highlight some of the first deadlines that come across the table. So next week, Wyoming will see the non-resident elk application deadline. Obviously, there's multiple deadlines for Wyoming. There's resident deadlines. There's deadlines for sheep and moose. But what we want to highlight here is just some of the first deadlines that are important to know about. You don't need to write these down. If you're a member of onX, we'll be sending out emails before each of these deadlines to remind you the deadline is coming. We'll send those emails out 2 weeks before the deadline, and then we'll also have some blog posts and some articles for each state on how to actually have kind of an insider guide on how to apply for that state. So there'll be some tips from the pros in those emails and those blog posts, as well as reminders of when and where to apply.
Yep. And I use my pain from last year. Don't wait until the last day to apply. A lot of times, luckily it was in Montana and it was cow B tags. So it wasn't anything too drastic that I missed out on, but don't wait till the last day. Make sure you get those apps in there well ahead of time. That way, if you do happen to have any website issues, so on and so forth, you can get those remedied before the final time there. Also, real quick, all onX Hunt Elite members do get a free membership to Hunt Reminder. So if you want to go ahead and get that set up, all of these dates will actually, Hunt Reminder will let you know beforehand. Hey, you have a week left to apply, a day left to apply, so on and so forth, so you're not missing deadlines. But as Paul said, we will also be emailing out as well, letting people know what's coming up, what you need to know, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for those. And then again, at the end of this webinar, we're going to just talk a little bit about Hunt and Fool and Hunt Reminder, and we can show you a page or two from those two tools just so you see how useful they can be in your application strategy.
Yep.
So first off, big thing is why it's important to understand draw odds and why it's important to have a draw and application strategy. We just published a study about a month ago, which you can find at the link at the bottom here, or on the onX Hunt blog, which is just onxmaps.com/hunt/blog. But ultimately what we're seeing is that there's a lot more applications and a lot less limited entry bull tags. We just looked at elk, but this trend kind of follows over into deer and antelope and a lot of the other species. It's getting harder and harder to draw those coveted tags. And so it's important that you actually have a strategy and understand what you're applying for. Dylan, tell us a little bit about your strategy and why it's important to know your draw odds and actually build strategy rather than just going in blind.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things, like, clearly I've worked at onX for several years. I've been a big game hunter all my life. I grew up doing it. I grew up in Montana. I've never moved out of the state, and Montana has a ton of opportunities. So growing up, I wish I had known then what I know now, as far as getting ahead of some of these states and building some points and just, experiencing new country. But Montana, you get such long seasons. There's a lot of tags you can get, so on and so forth. So really, until probably, my mid-20s, I wasn't even really looking at other states. My theory was, I've got a lot to do here in Montana, and I keep busy doing that. But once I dove into it and started understanding, these opportunities are getting harder and harder. For the most part, there might be a few anomalies out there, but for the most part, tags are getting more difficult completely across the board. So now's the time to have a strategy, to have a plan, to really look at draw odds. The other thing too, until really diving in and fully understanding draw odds, a lot of times I was applying for some of the most hard to get, the most unattainable tags there are, because my theory was, well, if I draw it, it'll be a great hunt. That's not always the case. There's a lot of units that kind of go under the radar that, in my opinion, now knowing some more information, are better hunts than some of the ones that are harder to draw. You just have to do some more research and, not just apply for the most coveted tag, look for that hardest to draw unit and apply for that, thinking it's going to be this, insanely crazy hunt. Like, you've never seen so many 360 bulls running around, because that's not really the case. So, yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of competition right now with hunting out of state, and at least getting points and figuring out like a short, medium, and long-term strategy is definitely crucial. And one thing I would say is start it now. Like, you can't start it too early. So if you start it now, you don't even have to have it all figured out, but starting it now will allow you to figure it out over the next several years.
Yeah, I'll just echo a little bit of that. I'm in Colorado, and there's a lot of over-the-counter opportunities for tags. And so for a long time, I was just hunting over the counter with all the other over-the-counter hunters. And it's really opened my eyes to understand my draw situation. In the last 10 years, I've been putting in for different draw units. And the hunting experience for me has gotten better. I mean, I haven't been putting in for those coveted tags that take 20 years to get, but there are some units that are not over the counter that you can get in 1 or 2 years. And there's just a lot less people in those units, and it's a totally different experience. And so I just think understanding your draw odds is really important. especially as you start to look at other hunts, other states, other species, and wanting to have more opportunity out in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, I went on a Colorado mule deer hunt last year. It took 2 points. It's a hunt that you could potentially do every other year because we went into it with a little bit extra. But I shot my best mule deer, and I've been hunting mule deer in Montana for, ever since I was 12. So yeah, you don't have to wait till you have 20, 25 points to apply and get these crazy hunts. Like go check out some new areas, learn what you can. And I mean, even being down there for a week, I learned a ton about elk hunting, whether it be not in the units that we were hunting, but the ones adjacent to. And yeah, it's also really cool to just hunt new areas, new states.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my big push this year, is to hunt new areas and new states. And every year I try to get a tag in an area I've never hunted, just to go see a new area. And I think that that's a really fun part for me, is just to experience new animals and new terrain. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of putting in for the draws. It kind of forces me to look into new zones. All right, well, let's move on to Toprut. That's why we're all here. So we're going to go over a few things. I'm going to actually open up Toprut and we're going to go over some of these, but we've got a couple different views, some filters, some unit page descriptions, as well as a profile. And so I'm going to explain this first. This is kind of a general Toprut 101, and then we'll go into actual real life scenario of looking at 2 states, 2 different species that we want to do a little bit of research for and find the hunt code or the hunt number that I would actually go and apply with. But first, let's pop over to Toprut. Bear with me here for a second. Okay, so can you guys? I'm hoping that you can see Toprut. Perfect.
Yep, we got it.
All right, so this is, once you're logged into Toprut, this is the main screen that you're gonna be pushed to. It's the member homepage. This shows you every state and species that Toprut covers. So the first thing that you want to look for, obviously, here is pick the state and the species that you want to do a little bit of research on. So let's say I want to research Montana elk. I'm going to click Montana elk, and this is the first page you're going to land on. We call this the list view. So the list view has a lot of different things going on. There's this drop down menu over to the left. There's this table full of data in the center. There's some tabs up on top. There's some drop downs over to the right. So it can seem kind of confusing at first, but I'm going to walk us through each one of these. So first off, this left section. So quick nav, I can switch my state and my species pretty easily this way, or I can always go up to the top nav and find the same navigation. Below that, we'll have a left menu for resident or non-resident. So I'm a non-resident of Montana. I'm a resident of Colorado. And then we'll have the season. So rifle season, archery season, antlerless, youth permits, general archery. So here's the different seasons that we can actually play around with. I'm going to leave it on rifle for now. And then you can also go through and select a specific unit if you prefer. So if you know you just want information on unit 109, you can click 109. Let's see, let's pick another one that actually has some data. If I was a resident.
Yeah, a lot of those are also excuse me, general. So if you went with like a 410 or something, for example, that's like a tougher tag. But
yeah, so if there's actual draw instead of just over the counter tags, you'll see this data come up. So let's go back to Montana. I love this quick nav because you can jump around quite a bit. So now let's look at the columns in the table. That's the next thing to kind of look at. So this first column here, these are stars that you can click. This favorites a unit. What happens then after you favorite a couple units is you can go back to this drop down and click My Saved Hunts, and it'll just pull up the 3 units that you favorited so that you can compare and contrast those. So that's a great way to look at just a couple units once you start narrowing them down. The next column is terrain analysis. So this is telling us how steep or mild the terrain is. You can click the top and sort these columns. You can click on the actual icon. We're using like a ski resort type of nomenclature here, but you can see double black diamond. So this is unit 250, unit wide or just public land. So I can look at unit wide, pretty steep at over 20 degrees. If I want to just look at public land is even a little steeper at 20.6. So this gives you an idea of what the terrain is going to be like in that unit. So if you want an easier unit, if you want a green unit, you can sort these columns again from the top, and we can look at a green unit. And this unit 630 is relatively flat at only 3.3%. The next column is the unit, obviously. So here's all the units. And again, you can sort from the top. So you can sort these from descending, or you can sort them from ascending, and find the unit that you specifically want to look at. We'll come back to this column in a minute, because you can actually click into these unit pages and get a little bit of info on the unit. But before we do that, I want to explain the rest of this table. So then looking at this, you'll see your 2022 draw odds at however many points you have. So right now I have this set up with 8 points. Over here in the right column, you'll see a drop down where I can add my points. You can also add your points in your profile, which I'll show you here in a minute. So this defaults to 8 points because in my profile, I have 8 elk points saved in Montana. But ultimately what we're looking at here is what your draw odds would have been with 2022 data. The reason we use 2022 data instead of 2023 data is obviously because 2023 hasn't happened yet. So we're running these simulations and these draw odd percentages off of the data that we have from the most recent year, which was 2022. So unit 217, if I have 8 points, I have a 99% chance of drawing that tag. Whereas if you look at unit 250 right below it, I only have a 12% of drawing that tag. So this really helps me understand what units I can or can't draw with the amount of points I might have. And again, this can be sorted in ascending or descending order. So if you really want to see the ones you have the most chance in, this is the one I like to come to first and click on it a couple times until it starts descending, and I can see all the units that I have the most opportunity in. So I might say I want a green hunt and a blue hunt and favorite these two because I've got 98% chance and 590 and 411. These next columns then, we've got non-resident apps first choice. So this is how many non-resident apps were put in for this unit as their first choice. So last year in unit 270, 90 apps were put in. Non-residence tags drawn. That's how many tags were drawn with those non-resident apps. 90 were drawn, and that's because you can see there was a quota of 317 tags. So not enough people applied to fill that quota. So everybody that applied got that tag, which is why it was 100%. Whereas if you look at some of these other ones, you might see there was 18 applications, only 10 drew that tag because the draws were a little bit worse for unit 217. Then you've got the hunt number. So this is the number that you would actually copy and paste and put into your application if you're going to be applying for that hunt. You've got the start date for that hunt code, and then you've got some notes. So there's some notes in here, whether it's private land or this one might be 1 per hunter, first choice only, permits must be used with a general elk license. So there's some notes in here telling you a little bit about each unit. Now let's go back to this unit column. If I want to do a little bit more research, let's say on unit 550, because this is one that interests me, I can click through to unit 550 and this will pull up a little bit more information on the unit. So we've got the approximate land size of Forest Service, BLM, state land, private land, government-owned land. We've got a map here from onX that we can actually scroll in and out of. So we can actually explore this unit a little bit. We can see this yellow area is BLM. We can see 3D view and kind of drag the map around, scroll in and see what this unit looks like, where I might want to hunt. We can spin the map around. So there's lots we can do just with the map for a little bit of basic research. Now, if I wanted to do more mapping research, what I personally would do would be go over to Web Map and use the onX app and start looking at burn zones. I can start looking at elk migration. I can start looking at a lot of other layers on the web map. This is just a little teaser map that lets you see where the unit is located in the state and then a little bit of the public land that's on it. We also have go ahead, Dylan.
I was just going to say real quickly, at a glance, like this will really help. Okay, how much, obviously we do say what's the percentage of private, public, but as a glance, especially being onX users, you're familiar with blue state, yellow's BLM, green's forest, etc. You know, like Paul said, where is that in the state and what's the access like? There might be a lot of public or, you know, a considerable amount of public in that unit, but what's the access to that public like? Is there a lot of checkerboard landlocked areas that you can't get to? Are there large swaths of forest, et cetera? So at a glance, that's really helpful. But just as Paul said, I whenever I'm personally looking, I usually have Toprut on one screen, or in one tab, I have onX in the other, and I'm constantly flipping back and forth to do more like analysis of, is this a unit I want to hunt? What, did it burn last year? What's the drought like for the past couple of years, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of benefits to pulling up onX in a separate tab as well, and kind of comparing and contrasting.
Yeah, I think those two tools work really well together. And this isn't just e-scouting like you might do midsummer or early fall. This is trying to understand, if you were to draw this tag, where would you go? Do you want to draw this tag? Did the whole area burn? Is there no access? Like, that's really important stuff to know before you put in your applications. So definitely use those both in tandem. Now back to the tool. Again, on these unit pages, we've got the map and some of this land information, but as you scroll down, we've also got some graphs that kind of show you what your draw odds are doing and what your percent of chance is doing. What you see here is, what happens with point creep. So at 5 points in 2019, you had a 59% chance. With 8 points in 2015, you would have an 89% chance, and how that has kind of progressed over the years. There's a few of these. We've got some total permits issued, total first choice applicants. So this is really interesting data for you to look at, to compare and contrast two units, so you know what's going to be your best chance to actually get a tag for the unit you want. So now we'll go back to the list view. A few other things to point out. So once you're in this list view, you can also click away from it and go to map view. So map view will show you the units in that state that you're looking for, that are, let's say, these rifle permits, and it's color coded based on the percentage of draw odds. So anything greater than 60% in this map is color coded green, all the way down to under 3%, which are these red units. So you can get an idea of where it might be easier for you to draw within the state. So that really helps if you just want, if you're over in Billings somewhere and you think you want to hunt close to home. Well, it looks like 590 and 701 might be easier tags to draw. And again, this is pulling based on my profile, which is set for 8 points, if you remember, over here in the list view. And so it's pulling this data in from the list view. The next thing you want to look at is the filter. And I think the filter is one of the best places to go to narrow down the results in the list view, because the results in the list view can be fairly long and there can be a lot of them to kind of sort through. So I think what the best advice is go to the filter and start playing around with this. So your points will be pulled in from your profile, or if they're not, you can adjust your points manually. You can determine if you're resident or non-resident, if that needs to change. And then what I like to do is I want to only look at hunts that have a minimum draw odds of, let's say, 50% for this hunt, because I actually want to go hunting. And then my hunt start date, I might only be able to hunt from August 15th to September 30th. So let's just look for hunt codes that are within that. So most likely an archery hunt. My weapon type, I'm going to turn my bow on. I'll leave rifle on too, just in case there's a tag that I didn't know about. And then I'm okay with a bull or a cow. Lastly, minimum percent public land. I want to be able to hunt public. I don't have access to private, so I'm going to bump this up a little bit to 30%. Now I'm going to go view my results. Now this has sorted my results by my filter. So I can actually see things that are all above 50% draw odds. So the last one here is 53%. Everything else looks pretty possible for me to actually pull. Some of these are B licenses, so that's great. I might be able to get 2 tags. And some of these look like they're fairly easy for me to get. So that's an awesome part of the filter. Definitely check out the filter option. The last thing I want to show you on this list view is you can click on or off some of these columns. So if I'm not too concerned with hunt notes or other valid units, I don't really care about the quota. I can make this list view a lot easier for me to look through. If you want all the data, you can obviously turn it all back on. But if you just want a few things, like some people might just want their draw odds and click everything else off. And now I can see very simply what type of hunt I'm going on, what the unit is, the terrain analysis, and what my draw odds are. So that's a little bit about how you navigate through this. Now, the next thing I want to go to is the profile page. So one thing that you're going to want to do is click on this profile link up at the top. it automatically will default to the points page. This is where you can go in and you can update your points. Say you've got 6 points for Arizona, you can save that in. Then when you're back on the list view, Arizona will automatically default to the data according to how many points you have. So you can do this for all states. You can save these in here. You can add notes, which is kind of nice. So if I want to add some notes to myself, this is where I hunted last year, or this is a hunt I really want to do, I can add some notes to keep those in here. And then also in your profile, you've got your general tab, which just shows you your email address, as well as your phone number, what kind of membership you have. If you're onX Elite, you'll see this onX Elite All Access, and then a contact us page. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, and we've got a pretty robust customer experience team that can get back to you within a day or two. That's a great place also if you've got very specific questions about hunt units or how these draws pertain to you. Either go to Hunt and Fool and talk to the guys at Hunt and Fool, which are really the pros, or our CX team is pretty knowledgeable in this stuff, and you can reach out to us. So that's a basic overview of how Toprut looks and works.
Awesome, Paul. Do you want to
add to that, Dylan?
No, you did a really good job overviewing everything. I was just thinking, since you're in here, do you want to just kind of dive into the couple real life examples that we had teed up?
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to do 2 real life examples. We're going to do an example of applying for a New Mexico mule deer hunt, and then we're going to do an example of applying for a Utah elk hunt. So again, from this main page, I want to go to New Mexico mule deer. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm interested in doing a mule deer hunt. We'll start by picking state and species. Again, default is going to land me here on the list view page. From my left nav here, I want to make sure, yep, I'm a non-resident. I also want to make sure that some criteria in here is what I want to hunt. So what's my season and method of take? So let's look at, let's see here. I think I want to do, I don't know, a first rifle season hunt. Okay. One thing to note about New Mexico that's interesting is they do not have a point system. All draws are just random draws. So I don't have to worry about adding my points into my profile. And actually, if I go to my profile, there is no New Mexico section to even put points in. So you don't have to worry about accidentally putting points in because you think you need them in New Mexico. Anyway, I'd also want to go to my filter here. So, yep, I've got a rifle. I want to hunt. I'm open to hunting anytime next year. I just want to go to New Mexico. I'm not resident. Okay, so this all looks good to me. I want to just do a buck. I don't want to do an antlers tag. I want to look for a big buck down there, and I'm going to be hunting on public land. So let's pump this up to 40%. I don't know anyone down there that's going to help me out with access. So the first thing I'm going to do for myself is I'm going to sort by draw odds and get this in descending order so I can see which ones actually give me the highest opportunity to hunt. And then I'm going to start looking at terrain. For me, I like to look at, I want blue, maybe a black. One of the things I like about these black terrain units is they may weed some people out because they're really steep. There may be more people in a green unit. So I might want to try it. I can climb mountains. I can get out into the woods. So I'm kind of interested in this one. It's 100% for a rifle tag. There's 2 non-resident permits. So there's not going to be a ton of hunters in that area. It's in November. So this one's something that's interesting to me. I also want to look at the notes here. So unit 45 is a mobility impaired unit. So if I had mobility impairment, Dylan, do you know exactly what mobility impairment unit means?
I don't in context to New Mexico. I unfortunately have not hunted New Mexico yet. It's on the list. I keep applying, but I'm not exactly certain on that one.
Well, we'll get an answer for that. We've got a couple of guys in the background right now watching this webinar as well. But anyway, that one might be one I'm interested in. I'm kind of also interested. Let's see. I don't have a lot of access to private land, but maybe I can call around for this one. There would be a lot less access. But if we just want to look at some units that have no notes, I could look at 18. I could look at unit 29. So I've picked 3 or 4 or 5 units from there. And then what I want to do is go to my saved hunts. So now this narrows it down just to what I was looking at. The ones that kind of piqued my interest right off the bat. New Mexico is also a unique state in that your first 3 hunt choices are evaluated on your application before moving to the next applicant. So the way you order your choices in New Mexico can really help you get a tag. My strategy here would be to order them from hardest to easiest, so that my hardest hunts that I'm most interested in will be the ones they look at first. And if those ones are already taken or there's no tags left, they'll go down through my other 2 choices and eventually hopefully get to my easiest choice, which would be my 3rd choice. Hopefully I'll draw that tag before they move on to the next applicant. So when I look at this, I think, harvest success might be important here. This mobility impaired unit 45, 100%, unit 4, 89%, unit 2B, 81%. Again, those are private land only, so I'm actually going to remove those and I'm going to renew. So these are kind of the 3 units that I'd be most interested in right here. So I'd probably apply for 45, 50, and 18, and I'd probably maybe put unit 18 as my first choice. So in under 2 or 3 minutes, I got down to a pretty easy decision on the unit I want to hunt for. So maybe now I'll go into unit 18 and kind of look around and see where that's at in the state. I'll look around to see what kind of data we've got in here in the graphs, how many applicants there were, how many drew, if there's any harvest information. Here we go. Here's some harvest information. So it looked like in 2001, there was 62 active hunters and 16 harvests. So that's pretty good. I can look around again in the state here, and it looks like there's a ton of BLM land down here in this unit. There's also some forest land, some state land. So this one looks like I've got plenty of access, and this shouldn't be a problem at all. So yeah, this is definitely one that I'm interested in. So there's my plan for New Mexico. Now I also want to go to Utah and do an elk hunt. So I'm going to go up to my quick nav.
Real quick while you're there, Paul. So one more thing I want to highlight, to learn more about this data in the kind of the upper right hand corner, that link there.
Great point.
If you have not applied for New Mexico, for example, or any state, this information right here is going to be incredibly valuable. So again, what type of point system? New Mexico doesn't have a point system. If it's another state that does, is it preference point? Is it bonus point? What does that mean? What do you need to know, and how do you go about applying to that state? Because I know for me, until you really dive in, it can seem so daunting applying for new states. And this information right here, if you read through this from top to bottom, it'll just take a few minutes. You will have such a better understanding of what you need to do to apply to that state. So definitely check this out, especially if you haven't applied for that state. And honestly, even if you have, they're constantly changing year to year. So checking this link and reading through every year is probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for calling that out. I'm sorry I missed it. This is different on each state, obviously, as well. So, if I wanted to go and look at Oregon, I don't know anything about Oregon. I've never applied there. This is a great place to start looking at what it takes to apply and how their draw works. So this is a great resource. And at the end of this webinar, we'll talk about a few other resources we have as well that are outside of Toprut and on the onX site. So again, like I was saying, I want to also do a Utah elk hunt. I know they've got big elk in Utah. This time I want to do an archery hunt. So my mule deer, I was going to do a rifle hunt in New Mexico. So let's do a rifle or an archery hunt for New Mexico, or for Utah, sorry. So again, finding the quick nav, I'll see my points they have drawn over. Let's say I've got 14 points. I've been applying for 14 years to Utah, and I want to use some of those points. Let's see. So now I'm going to, again, sort by my draw percentage. So Utah has a bonus point draw and a random draw. So that's important to know. Well, the way Utah does this is a bit odd. It's got a hybrid draw system. 50% of tags are given to people with the most points, so that'll be in the bonus point draw. And the other 50% of the tags are given randomly with your points as a consideration, but randomly through the random draw. So with my 14 points, what I'm going to do here is start looking through where I can actually draw. I can't draw this Boulder Elk Plateau tag yet because that one takes 24 points. So I'm going to actually scroll down here, and it looks like with 14 points, I'd be guaranteed this hunt here. So I'm going to look at that. I'd be guaranteed this 12-point hunt and 11-point hunt, but I've got 14 points, so I'd be wasting a couple points on this one. I'm not as interested in this Meadowville hunt because that only takes 3. So with 14 points, I don't want to burn them on that. It looks like if I waited another 2 years, I could potentially get this South Slope or the Central Mountains. I have a 50% chance of this Cache North with 13 points. So with 14, I might do a little bit better or be able to get this tag. So these are the 4 that I'm probably really interested in. So again, I'm going to favorite these 4. And then I'm going to go up and I'm going to, again, go to my saved hunts. So this is the easiest way I like to do it. So now I'm just down to these 4 hunts. So I'm going to sort these by points. I'm not really interested in losing my 2 points, 3 points that I've got. So I'm actually going to remove this 11-point unit. And now I'm just down to 3. So I've whittled this down. I only need to apply for 1 unit. Utah, again, is unique. So this is the kind of insider info that it helps to hit that learn more or go to the blog at onX to learn these things. But Utah's a little unique for limited entry hunts. Utah considers everyone's first choice before anyone's second choice is even looked at. So there's almost no point in putting in your second choice. I mean, I think you should still do it, but because of high demand, really your first choice is the only one that's going to trigger in the application draw system. So I got to figure out which one's my best opportunity. And honestly, it's this one where I'm 100% guaranteed at 13 points. And so that's the hunt that I'm going to apply for right here. So I'm going to go in and start looking at the unit, figure out where it's at, see if it's actually a unit I want to go hunt in and explore. So I'm looking at the map. And again, this unit looks like it has a ton of BLM. It looks like there's some higher mountain stuff here up by Black Butte and Buck Knoll. So this is a unit that's really interesting to me. I might look at some of this data down here, minimum points required. I know I can get this tag, hunter success. So in 2021, there was 17, almost 18% hunter success. That's pretty good. If I work hard, maybe I can get that up a little bit for myself. So this is the unit I'm most interested in. This is the unit I'm going to apply for. So in those 2 examples, we've shown a very basic way of whittling this down to 2 hunts, one for New Mexico, one for Utah in under 10 minutes that makes sense for me to apply for rather than just going in blindly, not understanding the odds and applying for a unit that either is close to my house or I've heard about before that you may never draw or you may not draw for years and years. So this way, is kind of the tip of my iceberg. I've got the units I want. Now I'm going to go over to WebMap and probably do a little bit more research. But ultimately, I know these are the units that I need to kind of focus on and figure out because these are the units I can get tags for that look like they may not have a lot of hunter density. They meet my criteria and they use the points in their most efficient way possible rather than accidentally applying for a unit that only takes 3 points when I have 14 or applying for a unit that takes 25 points and I only have 14, wasting my draw. Dylan, how do you, anything to add to those?
No, I pretty much do it the same way you do, Paul, but I think that's a really good point of what it always comes down to for me is like, how do I go on the best hunt possible for the amount of points, whether that's a DIY hunt opportunity, like over the counter tag, or I've got 2 points in Colorado, like last year, or I've got, 18 rifle elk points saved up somewhere. Like, how do I go on? My question personally to myself is like, how do I go on the best hunt possible for the amount of points I have? And this really helps narrow it down. You might even narrow it down to 10 different units. And then you pick up the phone and start calling around and, have you been in this unit, calling hunting buddies that have hunted that state, doing a lot more research, calling biologists, but narrowing it down from that long list to 10 to do your research from is going to save you a ton of time. Because when you got that long list, it's really difficult to, it's like, where do I start? What do I do? So by filtering, by looking at some of those terrain, the terrain filter in and of itself is really key. Like if I had a knee injury or a back injury and I know that I can't, hike the mountains like I used to, I'm going to not be looking for those black diamond units or double black diamond units. So narrowing it down to do your research helps immensely.
I think one of the other important things too is knowing that if you just want to hunt, a lot of hunters out there don't have 14 points or 15 or 25 points. Like a lot of hunters may not have any points. They may have just hunted over the counter. And so as you start to get into the applying and the draw systems, knowing if you only have 2 or 3 points and you really want to hunt, don't waste your draw on something that takes 25 points. If you want to hunt that year, look for units that only take 2 or 3 points and have better draw odds. I think that that's really important. I think a lot of people have 2 or 3 points and they're putting in for these units that may take 20 years to get, and they're frustrated year after year because they're not getting it. Well, those units are really difficult to actually draw. So I think it just helps on both sides, knowing how to efficiently use your points, but also knowing how to get a tag if all your main goal is to go hunt. And there are no over-the-counter tags. There's still ways to get tags. There's a lot of hunts that take 1 point or no points and have 100% draw odds.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to jump back in the deal and we can talk real quick about the Toprut offer, and then we got a few more slides for you guys. We'll jump into some questions, but Toprut 101 offer. I think it's the one right before that. There you go. So you can save 30% off your first year of Elite. So the promo code is Toprut 101. And then we'll go ahead and just drop this link. There you go. It's already dropped. So it's in the chat. If you click that link, enter promo code Toprut 101. Anytime between now and January, it looks like January 31st, you'll save that 30%. So good.
Yeah, with that code, with Elite, you're getting Toprut, which and Hunt and Fool and Hunt Reminder and onX. That's over a $200 value that you're getting at 30% off of just onX Elite. So I think it comes down to $69, and you're getting a lot of really kick butt tools for your application season, which is right around the corner. So make sure you do that before the end of the month. This promo code will expire on the 31st at the end of the day.
Cool. So we talked about several of these throughout, but we'll kind of dive in a little bit more in depth here, and then we'll jump to some questions after a couple more classes and the giveaway for some onX gear. As an onX Hunt Elite member, all of these are free. There's no additional cost. Toprut, obviously, we just went through extensively. Everything you need to know for draw odds and application trends. Hunt and Fool, you get a free digital membership. So Hunt and Fool is really, their expertise really lies in boots on the ground research and insight. They hunt all different states, all different units. They're incredibly knowledgeable. They have an e-magazine that, it's not your standard hunting magazine. It has some good stories and articles in there as well, but just loaded with a lot of really good, thoughtful unit research and information. So they'll help you narrow down those units and figure out where you want to burn some of those points once you figure out your draw odds. Hunt Reminder, it's a text and email reminder service. So I just got one today, I believe. It said 1 more week for Wyoming non-resident elk. I'll get one with 24 hours in advance. But essentially, you go in there and, again, completely free with onX Hunt Elite. You say what you're interested in. So I've got Wyoming elk, Wyoming mule deer, New Mexico, all the species that you're interested in for those states. You will get a text and email reminding you, hey, application is open for New Mexico mule deer. Hey, you have a week left. Make sure you apply. You got final 24 hours. Make sure you don't miss out type deal. So those are a lot of key benefits for application season as a whole. Obviously, with Elite, you have nationwide coverage. You now also have Canada. So all onX Hunt Elite includes Canada if you're heading north of the border. Everything you need to know there. We actually do a lot of 101 webinars on the onX Hunt product as a whole. So check some of those out on YouTube if you haven't already, if you want to learn a little bit more about how to more efficiently and effectively use onX, because there is a lot that goes into the maps. And then the blog. So this year we're doing a lot of content, written content about application season and state-by-state articles for, what changed this year in Wyoming, for example. What do you need to know for application season? And we're putting those out timely so you can get the information. We'll remind you about the upcoming deadline. You can do your research, obviously log into Toprut, check out Hunt and Fool, get applied, and ultimately go on more hunts. Yeah, it's as we showed in the slide earlier, tags are getting harder, so might as well get on some hunts while you can before they get too difficult. And so there's just a lot of resources right there as an onX Hunt Elite member that you have full access to.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing to call out is at the onX blog, we're also publishing state-specific articles that help you walk through the application process for each state that Toprut covers. So those are going to be the 12 Western states. And we've got 3 or 4 already published. We've got Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona already published. So as those draws come up, we've got some tips and advice in there. We've also got some updates that you need to know if you're applying to those states. So make sure you check out the blog. There's those state-specific articles as well as a bunch of other application-related articles that can really help you develop your strategy. We also have some upcoming master classes. So if you guys are interested, we're going to be doing an onX Hunt 101. So again, this is mastering the app, really understanding how to use onX maps and how to use all the application layers that can really help, like forest fires, elk migration, Boone and Crockett data, and that's going to be in early February. We've got application season with Hunt and Fool, so Hunt and Fool is going to join us. They're going to go over Montana deer and elk applications, which will be for residents, since elk applications non-resident is due before that. But that's a great one to focus on if you're interested in Montana. And then the state of wild turkey with Dr. Mike Chamberlain. So that one's at the end of February as turkey season's right around the corner. So the link at the bottom of this, onxmaps.com/hunt/masterclasses, has all the list and the links to register for our upcoming masterclasses.
Yeah, and we'll throw that in the chat as well. One thing I would say is get signed up if you are at all interested. We have a bunch more on the page. We're constantly adding to it. Get signed up for those masterclasses. We'll let you know ahead of time. Just because you sign up, if something comes up and you can't make it, no big deal. But what it does is it allows us to know that you're interested in it. So everybody on this call and who registered will get an email, usually within 48 hours, most of the time the next day, with a link to the masterclass so you can rewatch it, as well as any other information. Another thing to note is all of these get put on onX Hunt's YouTube after the fact. So you'll be able to watch this, send it to a hunting buddy who missed out. If you are in Toprut next week or heck next month and you're not sure how to do something, go to onX Hunt's YouTube, pull up this, rewatch what Paul walked you through. So everything will be on YouTube as well.
Yep.
Cool. So hunt giveaway. We are giving away, let's see, pulling this up here. We're going to be giving away 10 of these special edition onX hats. You can't buy, yep, Paul's got one right there. You cannot buy these. You can't get them anywhere else. Frankly, we usually give them to employees and ambassadors of onX Hunt that we've worked with for a long time. So enter, we'll throw the link in the chat below. Takes 2 seconds to enter, doesn't cost you anything, get entered. And if you win, we will get you one of those hats and some decals sent out to you.
Yeah, for sure. And there's some cool details if you get this. There's some topo lines on it. It says onX. Pretty kick butt. I think I've got to say to be PC, kick butt hats. So enter today.
Yeah, and one note too. So I know it's on the screen here, but a lot of people will watch this on YouTube after the fact. So you have to be on the webinar live right now in person to be able to enter to win one of those. So sorry if you're watching this a day or a week from now and want to get one of those hats.
Cool. So now we'll move over to a quick question and answer session. And I know we've got some questions that you guys sent in before we started this webinar, and we'll go over some of those and pull some live ones from the Q&A section as well.
Cool. So yeah, I'll kind of tee a few of those over to you, Paul. The first one here from registration is, when do you update the draw odds every year?
Yeah, for sure. So we usually update the draw odds throughout the summer and throughout the fall every year so that they're ready for the next year's application season. So it takes a little bit of time after these draws are run in the spring for the states to send us their data. And then we've got to analyze the data and we've got to get it into the back end of the website, and then those will usually be up by the end of the fall. And we send out notifications in the fall to anyone that's interested and that's listening to the onX emails of when we are dropping live data for each state. And we do them on kind of a waterfalling basis, as we don't hold them back and do them all at once. As we get a state's draw odds completed, we will push those live. So some may be as early as September and some may be as late as December, but we do aim to get them all done before any application seasons start to open up, which starts to happen in early December.
Gotcha. So I believe you covered this ahead of time or when you were doing your demo, but just, I know we get this one quite a bit. So why do draw odds show up as last year's? So 2022, for example, this year.
Yeah, so draw odds are run off of last year's data. We run those simulations off of the actual real data that we get from the states. And so we have to run them off of 2022 because the 2023 draw hasn't happened yet. We don't do what's called predictive draw odds currently. Those are really hard to predict. And I think it's something that's important to run these off of the real actual data that the state has. So we'll run thousands of simulations using their data that they send us to make sure that these are the most accurate and up-to-date draw odds possible. We can't obviously predict what the odds will be for a year because things like quotas and state agencies change things before the draws happen. But we do have the most reliable way of getting this data directly from the state. And so that's why we run it off of 2022, let's say, for this year.
Cool. Again, I know you touched on this one, but it's a very commonly asked question. Can we enter and store our points on the accounts? We don't always have to look them up. Yes, you can do that. I know Paul showed you a couple different ways. And one of the things that I find really helpful myself is when you're in your profile, it will say when that was last updated. I'm really bad about remembering. When I got that point and didn't draw, or when I bought Wyoming points last year, did I update that? Am I looking? And then I have to find my login for Wyoming, go log into Wyoming, see how many points I actually have, make sure it's updated. So it's really helpful that it says when it was last updated. So you'll be able to quickly, tell, okay, it's updated because I added it last week and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's crucial too, to make sure that you're updating your points every year so that the draw odds are as accurate as possible. We run these draw odds based on your profile. So, someone that doesn't go into their profile and fill out their points will see a different data table in the list view than someone who has put in their draw odds, that has put in their points that they currently have.
Yep, definitely. Let's see, here's another good one. Can you look at it from the perspective of trends? For example, it'd be useful to know how many points it would take to draw a particular unit in 22 compared to 21, 20, etc. This would give you a good idea for like point creep, etc.
Yeah, for sure. So when you click into the unit pages, you'll see I showed you those graphs at the bottom of each unit page. Those will show you the trends going back 3 or 4 years. And so you can see what point creep is doing, how many points you need to have to keep up with the leaders in that unit. And so that data is on the site and accessible.
Here's another one. So as someone who's never put in for a draw for out-of-state big game, what's the best steps to get started? I honestly would say that link that we showed you that breaks down each state, how they go about drawing, so on and so forth, that will help you so much. When I first read that, I believe it was for Colorado before I applied last year. I had bought points, but last year was the first year I actually applied. Just reading through that helped me understand what I needed, what it was going to take, how the system worked, and I felt so much more confident after reading that page. Another really good resource is Huntful. So again, with all onX Hunt Elite members get a free digital membership to Huntful. In their magazines, when they highlight each state, they do something similar. So they'll break down each of their like key focal units, but they'll also do like what has changed for New Mexico, what has stayed the same, how much it's going to cost, so on and so forth. So that's a really good resource as well. And lastly, I would say talk to people who've done it. It's not as daunting as what you think. Once you get started and get it figured out, write down some notes, but talk to people in your hunting community who have done it. I'm sure they're more than willing to help you out. They might not tell you exactly what unit to apply for. But yeah, just talking through it with somebody who's done it is a breath of fresh air. All right, which states are covered? I'm wondering about some of the eastern states for elk and moose.
Yeah, great question. So currently we cover the 12 western states. So let's see here. We got Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. Washington is being built. Washington's draw is not until later this year, so May and June timeframe. So those odds will be up before the Washington draw. But currently, we're focused on Western states. And yeah, unfortunately, we don't have Eastern states yet. They haven't had as much demand as those new hunts become available. A lot of those new hunts out east too are just straight random draws without points. So draws are fairly easy to calculate on your own. You know, if 1,000 people put in, you've got one chance in that draw, that's your draw odds, 1 out of 1,000. So that's currently where we're at. Hopefully in the future we will be adding more states, but that's to be determined at this time.
Definitely. And just a reminder too, for the folks still on, by all means, reach out to our customer service as well, especially if you have questions on the map or your account or anything of that nature. Reach out to our customer service. You'll get a real live human who uses the map out in the field and knows what's going on and can help you out. So yeah, we've gotten a few questions in, just more onX related, mapping related. We want to make sure we're getting those answered, and our customer service is going to be the best for that. Let's see, what's another frequently asked one here?
Yeah, and just while Dylan's looking for the next question, that email is help@onxmaps.com. So if you need questions answered, we're here to answer them. Our CX team is around. Hunt and Fool obviously is a great resource too. But you've got both of us as resources to reach out and ask these specific questions. And Hunt and Fool really can help a lot with these very specific questions that people have about, which unit they should apply for based on their particular situation. They're a great resource. How to use Toprut, that's a good one to go to help@onxmaps.com.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of the last one here that we can sum it all up with is, how do I get access to Toprut? I'm an onX Hunt Elite member. How do I go about getting access? And I know there's a few ways, but do you want to walk them through it, Paul?
Yeah, for sure. So the easiest ways, go to toprut.com and then hit the login button up in the top nav. If you're an onX Elite member, you can just push one simple button and it'll log you in right with your onX credentials. Another way you can do it, if you're in WebMap, you can go to the Elite Benefits or Elite Tools button on the left side of your web map, and there'll be a link to Toprut there as well. And again, same process, you'll land on toprut.com and you'll be logged in with your onX credentials. So you don't need to set up a new account, you don't need to have a new password or username. You just use the current account that you had for onX and you're all set.
Perfect. Well, I think that pretty much sums up most of them. Again, if you have more questions, reach out to our customer service. They'll pass them along or be able to answer them themselves. Do you have anything additional, Paul?
That's it. Just remember, keep your eye out for our emails, go to the blog and read those articles. And like Dylan said, check out the Learn More link in Toprut if you're applying to new states. Application season is here, so the worst thing you can do is miss the deadline. So just get out there, apply early, apply often, and hopefully you have luck this year getting tags and getting out in the field.
Yeah, good luck on the tags and in the fall. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening, joining us. Hopefully you learned some stuff about Toprut. Reference this video on onX Hunt YouTube for future reference. Send it to your hunting buddies, tell them to get signed up. And I guarantee it's going to make your life a lot easier when looking at out-of-state hunts and even in-state and getting more tags. So good luck on the draws.
Thanks, guys.
See ya, everybody.